Hello, I'm Joshua Schmidt, and you're listening to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. Today we are joined by team members Eric Brown and Nick Mellum to speak with our guest James Arndt to discuss phishing attacks in depth. Thanks for joining us. Please like, share, and follow the podcast for thoughtful conversations and a deeper look into the world of cybersecurity.
Hey, Jamie, awesome to have you on today. Have really been looking forward to talking with you. And for those of you who might not know Jamie is the guy that can pick apart malicious emails and determine what the payload is in them, where it goes. Is it malicious? Is it a phishing email? He'll be able to sort through. He's got an environment that he can run these emails in and see exactly what that malicious actor is doing. So essentially, Jamie, you are a reverse engineer. You've worked for a couple of different companies. You've worked with SANS. You've taught people how to do this. You are a go-to guy when it comes to figuring out what's all the bad stuff that's happening in email. So really excited to talk to you today.
Thanks, Eric. Pleasure to be here.
Nick, did I miss anything on what Jamie does or what you've seen him do?
You nailed it. This is very exciting for me because this is one of my favorite areas, the social engineering phishing world. So I haven't had the opportunity to hear all of Jamie's stories, so this is going to be a favor for me.
Jamie, I'm going to tee it up by saying that over the last, I think we all know that phishing is the number one attack vector. And recently, it's only gotten worse because of things like generative AI, where malicious actors can craft well-sounding emails and no longer have the bad grammar, punctuation is the word I was looking for, and really tailor those emails to specific individuals, or really try to make it sound like it's coming from someone in the organization, even taking content and language and patterns of speech that individuals may use and using generative AI to sound like that individual to get further embedded in that organization. So really cool stuff from a technology perspective, but really getting hard to block, and things like Microsoft's email threat protection just aren't cutting it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, attackers are always going to do whatever works. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the most complicated thing. You know, it's just, this looks like I'm expecting a package from FedEx. Here's an email from FedEx, or here's a text from FedEx. Yes, if they just happen to cross that, what you're expecting versus what they're sending out, that could get people right there too. However, I am convinced that if a nation state really wants to get into your organization, they will research everything that is needed in order to trick you into thinking that you are dealing with your CEO or somebody else, and you will do what they say. Or I remember hearing a story about how I think it was the Chinese wanted to get somebody's access in the Pentagon, and so they researched this guy, and they knew everything about him, his wife, his children, where they went to school, and everything. And so they sat and they waited, and then they heard about there was an accident at this guy's school or something. So they crafted an email from the school with an attachment with the school's letterhead and everything, saying, hey, everything that's going on in the school, just read this document right here, and then you can see it, and boom, that's how they got in. I mean, it can be the wide range of complete utter trash, or it can be just, we're going to get you whether you want it or not.
And it took them almost no time to do that.
Yeah. It's phishing. It's always changing every day too. I just read an article today. Attackers were attacking pharmacists, trying to get their access so that they could get access to their applications to make prescriptions for opioids, send them out to themselves, and then they would sell them on the street. And I'm thinking, that's genius. I mean, it's horrible, but it's like, okay, I've never worked in the health sector. Yet that is a significant threat vector right there that somebody's going to try to get. So I was floored by that. But again, that just like
I had not heard about that.
Yeah. If they want access to your whatever, any organization, you have to understand what is it that we're trying to protect. What's our crown jewels? If you're a pharmacist, it's being able to, there's certain significant controlled substances that other people want. How are they going to try to get that? So.
Actually, that's perfect, Jamie. You kind of led right into one of my first questions and thoughts, the crown jewels. And that's one thing when we're doing assessments for organizations that they don't know what they're trying to protect. And you just touched on that. So kind of going back to ground level here before we get too deep, what are some, common indicators for phishing attacks that you're looking for? What are you diving into? What would you tell clients?
Oh, sure. Is it money? Is it access into your company? Or is it basically they're just trying to scrape as many usernames and passwords as they can get?
Sure.
So hopefully your company has a security team that recognizes, oh yes, our crown jewels are, in my instance, the electrical utilities, generating electricity, which everybody needs, that's what we need to protect. So really how you're going to go about protecting that, you better have layers to your defenses, much like a castle with the moat and the drawbridge and the portcullis and the boiling oil and all that stuff. But the one thing that people can always get right from the outside directly into your organization is going to be an email because it's meant to do exactly that. So now, were you asking about what to look for in an email, or just were you still at the 10,000 foot view?
What you gave was great. I think we wanted to chew on that as well. But indicators that you might, teach, somebody within your organization to look for.
And maybe let me, while we're still at the 10,000 foot view, we've got different attack vectors. Like we've got smishing, which is the SMS phishing. So text messages, right? Same type of thing where you're getting that access to that individual through SMS. We've got quishing, which is the QR codes, malicious payloads. We've got vishing, which is voice. So a voicemail potentially with some malicious instructions. And then I'm going to make one up right now, call it dishing, which is...
Come on!
I can't wait to hear this one.
It's the document phishing. So embedded links in documents, right? Jamie, you talked about the attack vector where they impersonated the school document, the PDF. And I know you've seen this before where there might be almost invisible images in documents, links out to malicious sites in documents. And I hope we can unpack some of that today because I know we've used documents in order to simulate some of these things where there's benevolent software that you can embed a 1 pixel image and you can trace where that document goes. So I'm hoping you've got some stories around what you've seen in the real world from malicious actors.
Dishing. I'm here for it.
No, I refuse to use other ishing words. This is why we can't have nice things. No. You're right. There's plenty of ways to try to get them to do something for you. I mean, really what they want you to do is, here's an email, please interact with it somehow. Sometimes it's just a conversation back and forth. Hey, I just happen to have a bunch of money. I want to send it to you for some strange reason. But first, you got to give me a little bit of money first, or you have to give me some data about you, and then we can keep going. And, that's just a very common way. Or the CEO impersonation. I think that's your traditional business email compromise umbrella. Like, hey, I'm stuck in Europe. I need you to wire me a bunch of money. Like, okay, whatever. Or the worst ones, and you'd hope that a business this would only happen to them once, where a company that looks like it's from them, and they send some person email saying that, hey, we've got a new payment contact portal. You need to send payments over here now rather than over there. And so then they start wiring money over there. Well, a couple $100,000 later, they realize, oh, those were bad guys. Any business that is wiring money elsewhere ought to have some sort of a well-defined process where if it's a certain amount or it only comes from certain people, if you're going to change any of these things, you need to have a very, very well-defined process for that.
James, that's a perfect segue. I just want to jump in. Years ago, I dealt with a scenario just like what you're talking about, without a defined process. The organization called us because they had been, fraudulently, or they've been sending money to the tune of about $350,000 to a different bank account, and the controller. Her explanation was, well, the owner of the company was sending me emails to send these money because he was making investments, overseas investments, and she fell for it and sent 3 different transactions, and they totaled up to over $350,000. And I just wanted to bring that up because of what you said. Just no defined policy and procedures for the employee.
Yeah. And you kind of want to at sometimes blame that one person for doing that thing.
But your hands are tied without the process.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's not necessary. People can get fooled.
I'm sorry, I stole your thunder there.
But yeah, you're right. People can get fooled. And so do you have, getting a little bit ahead here, do you have processes in place that can stop that? Do you have other security defenses that can stop the person from when they interact with the bad guy, So yeah, things like that. And even if they almost fell for it or it got caught, I mean, that's still good because you're supposed to have those defenses in place. Somebody calls the help desk number. The help desk person says, oh yeah, download this thing from this super sketchy website. And the person does. And then they execute it, and they do. But that sets off alerts somewhere like, okay, there was a lot of things that failed to get us to this point, but it was still blocked. That's good. You have a little bit of remediation work to do.
Defcon, with the social engineering contest, it builds up to this event at Defcon where you're on stage in a booth, and Defcon's held in the late summer in Nevada. It's kind of the hacker homecoming, if you will. But the culmination of the social engineering event is, how can you social engineer your target company, and how many flags can you get? So a flag might be, what operating system are they using? What help desk software are they using? What are the hours of their support desk, right? So you have this person in this booth and thousands of people watching them, and they're going through this social engineering attack. And one of the attacks, Jamie, like you said, is to get those people to potentially click on a link where you could establish that malicious, or in the case of the security tester, a benevolent link that is done to get credentials to teach an organization what are the bad things that can happen. But impersonating a help desk employee is something that a lot of social engineers will do during pen test exercises, where you call up XYZ company. Hey, I'm so-and-so from help desk, which you've got that information from your online research about that company, that you're doing as your pretext. And then you're impersonating that engineer and tricking the person into thinking that you are a help desk person and getting information about their environment. So it's kind of one thing leads to another, but it's all around the idea of exploiting the human.
Right. And the people generally want to help others. Oh, you've got a problem. I need to help with this. Oh, okay. Yes, I'll be happy to help. That's just a big part of the psychological aspect of it, for sure.
And you can really target, and we've heard and read, Chris Hagnetti is a person who's written a couple of social engineering books, but there's lots of tricks that you could do. Like if you were going to call Nick and try to social engineer him, you know that he's a cat enthusiast with his cat, Mr. Meowgie, and whatever it is, right? So you could be sympathetic.
Not true.
Shoot,
this is false information.
I got to go to the vet. My cat's sick or whatever that. Nick might be sympathetic to that, or you have a baby crying in the background, or you're pretending that you're an intern, and you just have to get this report done for your boss. But lots of ways to play on that human in order to get what you're trying to get, because we all do want to help each other in general, as you said.
The crying baby in the background is critical. That is such a good one. There was that video, I think it was on YouTube, of the woman that was an expert in social engineering. She called the bank, and she played the story. I forgot my account. My husband's overseas in the military. I don't know the password to our account. She's got a crying baby in the background, and she got in. She got in after some persuasion, right? It wasn't that quick, but she served up what sounds like this sob story, right? Again, preying on, we want to help this lady. Her husband's overseas, serving the country. Mm-hmm. She's at home, got a crying baby, right? Let's make her whole again and help her out. And now she's got the bank account.
The most phish that I see are the typical ones where there's a URL in them, which more often than not leads you to some sort of credential harvesting website. And just your basic Office 365 looking portal, like, oh, I need access to this document. Okay, I'll put in my business username and my business password. Very, very common. And those websites, they come up very quickly and then they go down very quickly. I think it's just because, word gets out, they start getting on blacklists and everything, like, all right, well, that one's burned. Let's try another one, most common one that I see by far. And to me, the least interesting ones too. It's like, all right, credential harvester, block it. Let's move on. Then come the ones with some sort of an attachment. Now, the attachment could be like an actual legitimate, just fine, benign PDF. Only the thing is that embedded in it is a URL. It's trying to look like a some sort of login portal. Well, you click on that, it opens a browser window. You're getting a credential harvester right there.
So Jamie, if that comes in the document, then would you say that that's dishing?
No, I refuse.
Trademarked.
I refuse. No.
You heard it here first, folks, on IT Online Phishing. Yeah, so Jamie, with all the phishing emails that are coming into every organization, if you could give us an example of some of the key indicators that you're looking for.
Yeah, sure. Biggest thing will be who's the sender? Is this somebody that you recognize or not? Maybe it sort of looks like it, but upon inspection, some of the letters are kind of mangled or twisted around, maybe it is your CEO's name, but the domain from it isn't internal to your company. It's from some, strange place or at Gmail or something. Like, why would my CEO be sending me something from Gmail? That doesn't make any sense, Looking at the body of the email, that's another big aspect of phishing anyway, to try to convince you that this is legit. If they want you to interact with it somehow, like there's a URL in it, and it could look like maybe some sort of a FedEx or a UPS email, or you need to find an invoice, or you need to log into this thing. What you're going to see in the email body looks legit, but if you just hover over it with your mouse and then look down at the bottom of your browser, you'll see where it's actually taking you. If it's trying to be from the post office, and then you hover over it, and underneath it, it says, something.ru, it's in Russia. Like, well, I'm not getting any Russian mail, I don't think. That's going to be sketchy right there. I mean, that's a huge clue that this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Your bank is sending you something, overdrafts, whatever it is, and you hover over that URL, you look underneath, that doesn't look like my bank. It has some words from my bank in it, though. What do you do then? Well, then you actually go to your bank, not through that link. Open up a new browser, open up a new tab, Go there directly and see what's going on, So a good company will typically never ask you to, for your password or anything like that.
You see emails now or on apps, like on my USAA website or app, it'll say, we'll never send you or ask for a PIN or something, right? And that's your point there.
Yep. So if you just have that doubt in your head, I don't know about this, open up a new tab, go there directly and see what's going on. It's always that option right there.
And now, like, one of the key indicators that might have been a couple of years ago was grammar. And
sure.
Now with tools like ChatGPT, you can't necessarily fully engage with that anymore.
Although one time, the head of our HR department reported a phishing email from our CEO. And she's like, yeah, I knew it wasn't him. Like, how did you know? Because he started the email saying, hi, He never does that. That was unusual. And what this CEO was asking for was the W-2s of every single employee in a PDF document. As if that's not strange, but the key indicator was he started it off differently. So it should just be one of those things where like this something isn't right here. Well, then you send it in to your friendly neighborhood IT guy, and he'll tell you if it's good or bad.
Jamie, was it you who was telling me the story about your organization where if the employee clicks on 3 phishing emails in a year, they're fired?
No, 5.
5. Okay.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah, there's consequences to that. Generally, you're putting the organization at risk. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
A huge, serious risk right there that needs to be dealt with too. Then, as the IT security side of things, you're going to get a lot of emails that are reported.
Yes.
So there's a trade-off to that sort of cost. And every organization needs to figure out what balance is it that you're looking for. You can't be nice because we live in the real world. Bad guys want your stuff.
Right.
Okay. You can't be nice to everybody. So yeah, you have to figure out what's your risk tolerance level.
Let's talk about defenses a little bit. So in the customers that we interact with, typically they'll have some form of email security. We'll work with them to enhance that. And there are some pretty good ones out there now. Certainly you want to do your phishing testing, Jamie, and I think that's what you were alluding to on if you click on 5 of those simulated phishes, that has some serious employment consequences. But some of the other things that organizations will do is employ software that will sandbox that URL. So when you go to click on that link in the URL, it will sandbox that entire conversation that you're having. So you're going through a portal, so to speak, and a lot of it's invisible to the user, but that's protecting the user, and any data that they may enter, it would prevent entering credentials in that sandboxed window. Are you seeing any other unique defenses that companies are employing?
Yeah, sure. Some companies will, any sort of attachment will be sent off to be checked. And then if you want to get it, they'll replace that. They'll put a link in the email saying, hey, this has an attachment. It was scanned. It's fine. If you want to download it, get it here. So
Sure.
That's certainly one way to do it. I've seen other secure email gateways. They'll replace every single URL. They'll wrap it around with their own. You'll click on it. It'll go to them. They'll check it out, give it some sort of judgment, and send you on to the rest of it too. So, and plus, there's just these big players, Proofpoint, Microsoft, Mimecast, those guys, they've got big, gigantic feeds coming in every day of known bad things, known bad senders, known bad hashes, all that stuff. They'll keep updating that, sending it out to all of their customers to try to just cut all of these things off right from the get-go, from even entering your organization, and stuff still gets in. It's inevitable. It's the eternal cat and mouse game with email.
There's another company called Abnormal, and they're doing something a little bit different potentially. I think there's a few players in this space where they're actually looking at the content of the email. They use terms like machine learning and AI, whatever.
Yep.
But they're actually looking at the content of the email and determining, even if there's no link to click on, is that content malicious? Is it trying to get the person to do something? So it's great to see innovation in the space where they're not just looking at signatures or sandboxing, but actually trying to go further and look at the behavior side of the email.
There's always the certain keywords that you could try to look for that could either raise your suspicions about an email. Like I remember I wrote a rule one time that would look for a certain string of just characters in a row, a Bitcoin address or Bitcoin wallet, number. And because there was just a big, huge influx of phishing emails coming in saying, hey, I've hacked your computer. I know what websites you're looking at. I've even hacked your webcam. I know what you're doing. All right. So you need to send me a bunch of money to this Bitcoin wallet. And it's like, well, okay, nice try. But things, yeah. So yeah, certainly a lot of keyword indicators. Invoice, that's a huge one. Login, password.
I think you mentioned it too. New domains, right? These things are pretty ephemeral. They spin them up and then they shut down. So, is there any reason why you would be getting business email from a domain that was registered 30 days ago? Probably not.
Well, right now, as a normal user, I wouldn't look into that. But maybe there's some sort of a SOAR platform that you could have that emails that come in, and you could go out and check. How old is this? And if there's a certain threshold where it's older than 30 days, less than 30 days, maybe only 7 days, you could automatically categorize those things that way. So,
yeah. And James, one thing that we're seeing too is just the advancement in AI, right? As part of this, what you're talking about. Do you have any idea on how that's advancing, the industry or attackers' ability?
I do not. I can't answer that one. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
It seems like it's been a while for me that bad grammar has been one of the key indicators. It's certainly not always the case. Although when it is, it really does stick out like a sore thumb. I can't think of any good examples of that where I thought, oh, this is AI generated or some paragraph that that. I like if it's going to work, attackers are going to do it. So you got to be prepared for that.
What's one of the cooler attacks that you've seen?
Well, attack or phishing email, because I got a good phishing email that I've never seen.
Email.
Yeah. All right. My absolute favorite one of all time, and I wish I had kept it for proof that I could prove that this happened. Somebody reported an email as phishing. I looked at it, and the email said, "Look, I'm a hired assassin, and I've been hired to kill you. But I've been following you for the past 3 weeks, and I can tell you're a good person. But I've got bad guys on my tail. So in order to, you need to send me a bunch of money so that I can disappear and everything." I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. It was a work of art. I've never seen anything like that again. That one was above and beyond the most.
Personally?
Someone in my company, they got that one. And although my sister got a text that my lawyer in Africa said that I had died in a car accident.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yep. So,
yeah, I mean, we're seeing so much happening with crypto right now, especially with the markets are going a little crazy right now.
Really?
If anybody partakes in that, and I don't know if you're familiar with pig butchering. It's a technique attackers use, and it what they're doing is they're trying to get you to invest in crypto or something, or continue to send money, and they'll set up a fake crypto site, and you keep putting money in because you see it keep going up and down. But the phishing email might start like, hey, engaging this person, getting into a relationship or what have you. So really so heavily social engineering. And once you kind of trust this person, you start investing, you see making money hand over fist, you keep putting money in, not knowing the account's fake. And, when the account gets big enough, that's what they call it, pig butchering. They butcher the pig, they take all the money, and they're off to the races. And there's a lot of stories about this, right? Like one that I can key in on is that I recently heard about or read about was a gentleman. It was close to retirement age, I think, between 65 and 70. And part of his portfolio was 4 properties, homes that he owned. And his fake crypto account was growing, right? He sees it growing so big. He takes out mortgages on all 4 of the houses again that were paid off, puts that money into the account. Now he's in I think they said a little bit over $3 million into this fake account. They butcher the pig, money's gone. Yeah, he's at retirement age, and now he's got 4 new mortgages that are brand new. So, we see the crypto stuff. Just shows how aware you have to be.
Yeah, boy, that's one extreme of things. Good Lord.
Yeah, I really went so extreme there, but I thought the story was so interesting that I wanted to key in on.
Yeah. And on that note, thanks for coming to this podcast.
No, didn't mean to.
Yeah, so do a little work in the state and local government sector, and there was an attack on a local municipality, made the paper and everything about 1.5 years ago. What had happened was they were going through a contract negotiation for, I believe it was some sort of large sewer project. So with state and local government, all of the contract and the project work is public. So the public could see who was awarded that contract. The malicious actors spun up a lookalike domain, very similar to the organization that was announced to have won the project. And shortly after, I think it was within 30 days or so, they issued a payment change, as Jamie had mentioned earlier, where we're actually switching banks and, whatever. This is our new ACH information. So then the municipality ended up sending a significant amount of money, hundreds of thousands. And I think they did this 3 times, where they sent it to 3 different accounts, because the malicious actor then said, well, actually, we've changed again, or whatever they did. But they constructed it so that the entity that was paying the money continued to send in these payments. And the way it got caught was the actual company that won the contract, 90 days later or so, said, hey, we're actually not getting paid. And then they looked into it and discovered that it was all fraudulent. And I think the silver lining is they were able to trace it and get some of the money back. I forget the exact numbers, but over $1 million in total was lost, and they may have recovered several hundreds of thousands. But those really good actors are able to stay one step ahead. They're waiting for these contract announcements to come out. And if they do that across 100 municipalities, good chance they'll get one to bite. And even better, if they can get embedded in the email system, catch those emails that are coming in from the real company that won the bid, and delete them. We're victims of our own processes, right? That we have to announce who we're doing business with, and it just breeds that malicious actor that is able to take advantage of the information that's already out there.
That's a good one. Wow. We had my least favorite type of phishing attacker from the third-party vendors. Another business that somebody in your company is doing business with.
Yes.
And the attacker either compromises that other company and then starts sending you emails where it looks like it is actually coming from. You look at the headers of the email and everything, like, yeah, it came from them. It has this malicious thing, and they'll just, slip right into a conversation that if you're to scroll down, you would see the exact same conversation that, yes, you had with this person. One time we had a guy who received an email like that and downloaded the attachment. It was a malicious document. He opened it up. The macro ran in the background. The PowerShell executed and everything, and it called out it was blocked. But we saw it on the call out, like, what in the world happened here? Well, you rewind back, and we found the email, and it was like, holy crap, third-party compromise. And the email was tailored to what this – here in this attachment. And the guy in my company was like, how did they know I like ducks? Well, it's because the bad guy was in there.
It'd be cats then for us.
Yeah, right? Mr. Miyagi.
So it was, I hate those ones. Those are the worst because you already have this trusted relationship with the person on the other end.
Yeah.
How do you fight that? We're
going off onto the worst case scenarios here. Before we get to these points where somebody's extracted 100,000, whatever it is, at what point do you think like the attack is becoming a problem? Like, when do we have a serious issue? At what point does it before it gets to the money? Where's the problem start?
Yeah, well, this kind of comes back to what are the warning signs about email that you should look at before you interact with it? Because some people, I've heard them say like, oh, I never even opened those emails. Well, it's like, well, okay. It's not necessarily the case that simply opening it is going to cause some malicious sort of activity on your endpoint. It's really not. It's when you start interacting with it, talking with the person back and forth, clicking on the thing, downloading the thing. When you start doing that, that's when you really start playing with fire. Now, I can do that Because I'm a professional, right? Yeah, right. And I understand why people do this, because it's fun. All right, it's a lot of fun to click on something and not know what's going to happen. It's going to be great. But
like
again,
your cape blown in the wind, James. Your cape is blown in the wind.
Jamie, talk through what is that? You say you're a professional. What does that mean, and what tools do you use to inspect this stuff?
Yeah, so if I'm going to be interacting with something that is suspect or possibly malicious, very likely malicious, I'll always take the email and I'll bring it off onto a separate off-company network, off-company device, some sort of virtual machine that's set up similar to what a company, a corporate device would be.
Sure.
It's got all the same security software and everything on it that they have on the company. And I'll just, start looking at it. If it's the URL, that's pretty no-brainer. You just click on it and see where it takes you. If it's some sort of file, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use to try to indicate, is this bad, generally bad, but then what's actually going to do? What happens when somebody starts to interact with it? And, malware can hide, but it must run. And if it's running, that means it's visible. And you can hopefully start writing detections and then import those detections into your security software so that you can detect if such things are happening.
I like that.
Yeah, no, that line came from a SANS instructor. He said, malware can hide,
you gotta keep that
but
as
it
your
must
own.
run. No, that's not mine.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, when I took the reverse engineering malware course, which changed my career, by the way, that was one of the things he said. I'm like, that's good. I didn't realize how profound it was until, over a decade later now.
Yeah, James, I guess if you could dive into some of your favorite or main tools that you're using on a daily basis to uncover these phishing emails.
Yeah, sure. If it's some sort of Office document, you're typically going to need, the Microsoft Office suite. Your typical malicious Office document is going to have some sort of macro in the background, and within the document itself, you can actually access the macro and see it and start, debugging it and going through it line by line to see what it is that it's trying to do. If it's some sort of executable, really kind of depends on the type of executable. If you're trying to do static analysis, where you think of doing the really deep, nerdy things where you're looking at it in assembly and you're just completely disassembling the whole thing, it takes a lot of work, and you really got to want to know what's going in it. I'm not the best at that. I'll tell you right now. But there's plenty of online sandboxes where if you don't mind this sample being available for the rest of the public, including the bad guys, there's plenty of online sandboxes where you can do that too, and they do a generally pretty good job of breaking down what this executable is doing, what's it calling out to, what's it downloading, what sort of child processes it's making, finally what sort of network traffic is outbound for your command and control, things like that. There's plenty of online ones that are good for that.
Do you recommend one like Joe's Sandbox?
No, I haven't used Joe's Sandbox a lot. I like any.run. That's a favorite one. Although, any.run, they've got a free thing where you can interact with it. And then Hatching Triage by Recorded Future, that's probably my favorite one that I really like. I think they do a really good job.
Hash and Triage?
No, Hatching. Recorded Future, Hatching Triage. That one right there. There's that. But there's plenty of things to do when it comes to just doing behavioral analysis on your endpoint. There's Process Hacker, which is basically like your process manager on steroids, though, where you can really just see all of the different processes that are breaking out who's making network connections and what. You can even pause the process as it's running and download it and look through its strings and all that other stuff. ProcMon, which is Process Monitor, that really digs down deep into all the different things on the endpoint that are happening as you run the malware. RedShot, which is taking a shot of your computer's registry, the complete thing. Then you run the malware, and then you take a second shot of your registry, and then it does a diff. It compares the two, and it's like, okay, what has changed? Has any new registry keys been added? Now, again, these are all these things that these online sandboxes can do, but it really depends. Like I said, do you want this sample to be made public to everybody, including the bad guys? Because they're going to know if they've been burned. After a time, it's like, all right, everybody knows the hash of this thing. Well, then we have to change our game and we'll start sending out new malware instead. So, behavioral analysis, static analysis, it's all fun. I was just messing with one today where there was an email. It had a zip attachment. I extracted it, and it was a .img file, an image file. He mounted it up, and it contained only one VBS script. Well, I was looking at that, and it was just all written in VBS, and it had these big, gigantic strings of encoded letters that the VBS file would then decode and then extract. Well, when it decoded, those were all PowerShell. Well, that PowerShell contained more encoded strings, and so really just Notepad, Notepad++. I mean, that's a great tool for just decoding these and looking through them just to see what it is that they're trying to do.
Keeping it simple.
So, Jamie, as an end user who may not have the interest or the sophistication to go through this level of detail in their personal lives to unpack these, what are some of the indicators that people can look for? I know we touched on some things, funny domains, things like that. But is there something that people should do in their personal lives to protect themselves?
I would say that all of the same rules for trying to identify a suspect email, this training that you're getting at your business, it all completely applies to emails coming at home too. The thing is that you just don't necessarily have all of the same layers of protections. You don't have your firewalls and web proxies that can try to block outbound malicious traffic.
James, I thought it was kind of interesting earlier, and we're kind of touching on it again about how it's okay to click on the email, but you don't want to have an action to the email.
Open the email, not click on the email. Refrain from clicking is, but to open it.
Open the email. And I was thinking about this as we've been, having conversation, and I wonder if a part of that thinking is due to the culture that we're creating, because we're training and teaching our staffs or organizations to not be a clicker, right? And that's a metric in, for example, KnowBe4 is you're a clicker, right? You've clicked into the email. So thoughts on that? Yeah.
It's interesting where some people, there's like, I don't even want to look at it. Well, it's not going to hurt you. But then again, maybe for a lot of people, computers in general, let alone IT cybersecurity and things, it's just kind of like a big black box, and I don't know what it is. I just know that I should be scared, and people have told me that I should be scared, and I read in the news about how scary it is. So I'm just going to not touch it. And I could understand why people would be that way.
Yeah, and it's one thing that I've seen in the past too, and I think it's probably actually a good thing. One organization, they were giving out I think they were $5 coffee gift cards if you spotted a phishing email or something and you sent it in. Not every time, but if you did a good, you spotted this phishing email, you sent it to the help desk. Here's a $5 gift card for doing a great job, and that's a part of that culture for education. Policy procedure. Creating that environment where people are educated on these things, and you reward them for that.
Yeah. I've done plenty of demos or analyses for within my organization too, where it's like, hey, let's open up this box here. Let's see what's actually happening, so that they get an appreciation of okay, here's what's going on. Here's what I did one for the entire IT department one time. So you've got technical people, right? So we tore apart a malicious document, and we were looking at the strange, crazy code in it. Everyone's like, oh yeah, that's what they do. That's interesting. They've never seen this before. So all right, I get it now. Whereas other people, it's just like, hey, look at this fake email from the CEO. What? No way. That's amazing. So you get a wide range, but it's just that reach out. It's not just dangerous because we say so. Here's really what's going on, and that can really just kind of start to expand people's minds.
James, one thing that one of my quick tips is always, if you get an email from somebody you think is your boss or a CEO or something, maybe go ask them or give them a call. Say, this doesn't sound like you. Did you send this email? But turning it back to you, what are some of your top 5 things that you're looking for or would do if you fall victim to an attack?
Sure, fall victim to a phish. It kind of really depends on what is it that you did. Did you give up your username and password? Well, then the obvious thing is to change your password. And everywhere else, you're using that same password, which you totally shouldn't do, but which everybody does. Anyway, you should totally change your password, because that's what you gave the bad guy. All right. Did you give the bad guy financial information, credit card number, something like that? Call your credit card company immediately. The number's on the back of your credit card. Tell them, hey, this needs to be canceled right away. Look at any sort of charges that were made to it, get those canceled, and get a new credit card. Did you give up bank information? Well, then you need to talk to your bank on how to figure that out. Were you just surfing and you saw some strange pop-up thing that took over your whole screen saying you've got all the viruses in the world, and now it's like, well, okay, don't maybe you did interact with it, and now your computer is full of just like bloatware and just other just sort of dumb malicious things. Well, maybe you need to reinstall your operating system then. Maybe or call your favorite nephew who likes computers to go figure it out. Because typically the times that I've been that nephew and I've had to go clean up things for people, it's what they're doing. It has some sort of name, and there's plenty of guides online that you can go and try to clean it up as best you can without having to do a full reinstall. My general advice for anybody though is, especially my older folks that I know, is never click on anything that you didn't go searching for. I've had to clean up plenty of things because they said I had all the viruses, and I clicked on the thing. Well, you gave her permission to a bunch of stuff on your endpoint there.
Yeah, a lot of really good points. I think one more that I would also add is if you're not actively using your credit, and we've talked about this before, freeze and lock your credit. Go onto those major websites for the organizations and freeze your credit unless you're actively using it. But yeah, really, really good points, James. Thank you.
Yeah, tell us. We want to know if you clicked on something, or you thought you clicked on something, or you saw somebody click on something. Tell us. We want to know. You're not going to get in trouble for telling your security organization about something that's happening. It's much better to catch the problem early than later. And if you're involved in a phishing campaign at work, so they'll do simulated phishing, don't tell your neighbor that, hey, they're sending out state fair tickets. That's a phishing email, right? That's it. The emails are crafted so that we can test the organization's security, and we want to know how well the organization is doing. So by telling everybody that, they're doing phishing emails now, this is what it looks like, that's not helping the organization. Just hit that report a suspicious email, get the thumbs up, and go on about your day.
I really like that point of, if you click on something and you think it was malicious within your company, just to report it to the security team and say, hey, I think I messed up. You really have to foster that culture ahead of time. You have to tell people, like, look, this can happen. Let us know, and because we need to clean it up. That's not going to happen without that sort of a trusting culture between the security team and the rest of the organization.
Yeah, that is a great point. I think this has been such a great time chatting with you, James, and I think it's such a great topic to continue to have, because it's some way or another everybody can relate to this, right? You don't have to be a cybersecurity professional to think well, this couldn't happen to me, or understand the reverse engineering that you're talking about. Well, we've all got the phone calls from mom, grandma, dad, whoever, uncle, aunt, that have had this situation, or yourself. So I think everybody can resonate with what we're talking about today. So thank you so much for coming on.
You bet. My pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for the invite.
You have been listening to The Audit, presented by IT Audit Labs. We are experts at assessing risk and compliance while providing administrative and technical controls to improve our clients' data security. Our threat assessments find the soft spots before the bad guys do, identifying likelihood and impact, while our security control assessments rank the level of maturity relative to the size of your organization. Thanks to our devoted listeners and followers, as well as our producer, Joshua J. Schmidt, and our audio-video editor, Cameron Hill. You can stay up to date on the latest cybersecurity topics by giving us a like and a follow on our socials, and subscribing to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you source your security content.